Welcome to Greenlit, the Buffalo 8 podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Helderman, and each week we're going to dive into a different piece of content, film and television, and we're going to talk with some of the biggest names in front of and behind the camera as we dive deep into how they were financed, produced, developed, marketed, and the crazy stories behind how many of them got made. Welcome back to Greenlit. On today's episode, I'm chatting with Creed Bratton. Most of us know Creed, as his name suggests, from playing the character Creed on the hit show The Office. Creed was introduced to me by his manager, a colleague of ours who we've known for a number of years, who thought it'd be interesting to chat with him because Creed's on the verge of releasing a new album. When we were preparing for this interview, Creed actually said, can we throw all the questions and the prepared outline out the window and just have a conversation? I think the result ended up being probably the most fun conversation that I've had in this series to date, and I hope you'll end up feeling the same. So without further ado, enjoy this conversation with Creed Bratton. Welcome back to another episode of Greenlit. On today's very fun, very special episode, I'm chatting with Creed Bratton. So Creed, first off, thanks for joining us, man.
My pleasure, Matthew. Thank you, man.
It's awesome to have you, and would love, again, I know we'll get into The Office and we'll dig into that, but obviously I see the guitar right there behind you in the office space you're in, which I love. And your background in music was one of the most enjoyable parts of prepping for this conversation, and honestly listening to the Grassroots and realizing how many of those songs are so unbelievably iconic, and you hear them constantly, and they're amazing. And I would love to just hear a little bit about how that band came together. As I said to you, I had done some research about you and how you obviously have a musical background, but would love to just hear how that band came about, Creed. My understanding is you played guitar on 4 albums starting in the 1960s, were a big contributing member to that band and many of those songs that people recognize. But let's start there before we even go into the office of it all. Those albums, that era, and how exciting that era is for music and how amazing it must have been.
It was the best of times and not really the worst of times, because it was the summer of love. It was 1967, 68, 69, early 70. And I had been back from Europe. I had traveled out of college, left college of the music, played music to get through college, was a drama major. And I went to Europe and met these 2 guys in Munich. And we started a group called the Young Californians. And we ended up going all the way down to North Africa, crossed North Africa, ended up in Israel. I went through the Red Curtain countries, Scandinavia, ended up living in England, starving. Finally met this guy in LA that I had met in Israel. We were working on a kibbutz, and I ended up working on a film. Frank Sinatra, John Wayne, Senta Berger, Yul Brynner, it went on and on. And we parted ways in London. I ended up weighing about 145 pounds. I'm 185 now. So you can see.
You slimmed out. I
slimmed out quite a bit. But I called this girl that I'd met in London. She was living there. And I got connected with this guy. We started a band called The 13th Floor. We ended up about a year later playing at the London Fog on Sunset. And Danielle Records heard about us and brought us in, and we demoed a song that Warren and I had written called Beating Around the Bush. And then we tried Live for the Day. And Warren and I played guitars. Larry Nectar was there, I remember, Hal Blaine, and Joe Osborne wasn't, because my friend Bobby Ray played bass on Live for the Day. And all of a sudden this song just goes crazy. We were off. So we just traveled around, started out in the back of a van, then ended up on a tour bus, then we were flying. At the end of the tours, we were flying around.
I love it, man.
But I got frustrated because I could play, and I'd come back from tours and the tracks were cut by the Wrecking Crew. They're great players. I love them to death. But it was frustrating for me, and I complained and wanted to contribute more. I'm an artist. I want to contribute more.
Yep.
So we finally decided, well, if you're not happy, take a settlement and you can leave. And that was it. I didn't fight it. I didn't argue with it. I said, okay, just did. And went off to Europe again for about another year and a half. Was married then with my little daughter. Saw some friends, tried to get a deal again. Nope, nothing going on. Went back and studied acting, the Meisner method. Did a lot of film and not a lot of film, a few films, but a lot of television, stage. Got an agent, John Crosby, and then I started working. Met Beau Bridges, and he put me on as a stand-in. And he's a great guy, and gave me a leg up there. A wonderful, wonderful man. He knew my backstory, and I think I played for him on a musical, and that's how I started out. But I got I'd been studying acting. I'd always wanted to do it because I was good at it, even as a young kid. So I was working off and on doing all kinds of odds. I was working on Bernie Mac. And they were giving me little bits and was making people laugh. Ken Kwapis came on the show. And I'd heard out through the first AD, Joe Moore, that he was starting the Office Place, the Office, an American Workplace. And they were going to do the Ricky Gervais show, which I loved. So I did something I'd never done before. I called Ken up and I said, is there any way I can get on this show? And he said, well, you're a really funny guy. He said, let me talk to Greg Daniels about this. So they gave me a shot. They put me in the background. They told me, here's our plan. We think you're great, but we've already cast everything. We want to see if we can work you into the mix somehow. Within 2 weeks, I realized the writing on the wall. There's some young kids, hungry kids wanting this. And I felt very comfortable with everybody. My intuition said, I belong here. You know how it is. You trust your intuition. It's like playing a guitar and you start to go to the matter and you go, well, wait a minute. Something's leaning you the other direction or over here. And it works out. Right. So the little voice said, shoot your own demo, shoot your own audition. I didn't tell anybody. I went with my buddy Joe Moore. I shot it. I wrote all this stuff out. I did, basically, I had to go to the part of me for the character. I incorporated a Jacques Tati walk. I had a little Chaplin in there. The facial stuff I mixed, and people think, oh, Creed. No. He's put together. It's an acting job, piecing funny stuff together. So I had Bob Newhart and Jack Benny, Johnny Carson. I had all these little things that made me laugh, and I tried to make a montage. And then I morphed it into this guy. So someone making soup. That's the guy. Right. Most of the time, I'm pretty laconic and just kind of low key, and I play my music. But on that show, you never knew when the camera was going to hit you. So the camera would go, and sometimes it just might go right in on you. So you had to be ready to go. Right. You had to be in the character. So for 8.5 years, I did that guy, and it was great. It was great. But now it's a mixed blessing because I'm getting movies, but few and far between. Most of the things I'm offered are the guy, the Creed character. Right. And I've done, I did a movie called Terry with John C. Reilly and Jacob Wachowski that Azazel Jacobs directed. Patrick DeWitt wrote that. And that went to Sundance, and it was very well received. The people that saw it, I nailed this character, and I'm thinking, here we go, Matthew. They're going to see now what I can do. Still, right. Can you do the Creed character again? Right. Can I take you back? And it's awesome. It's amazing to just see sort of the pulling on the creative thread leading to this really fun story. Oh, he's such a fun guy too. Yeah, I love so fun. Take me back to, so you're the Young Californians, then you're playing the London Fog.
then you're putting Live for the Day together. I mean, it's funny enough, not to go on a tangent, but the Wrecking Crew, the Danny Tedesco movie.
Yes.
We're actually working with Danny Tedesco on a movie now called Immediate Family, which is about the guys that did it in the Next Generation in the 70s and 80s. The guys that played on Jackson Browne and the Eagles and Don Henley. And so we're actually working with Denny on that, and hearing that story is just so awesome how those guys were.
Please say hi to Denny.
I will.
I got invited to the, one of the reasons I got invited to the thing is, well, not because of just the Grassroots, but the Grassroots were the first band to put the name of the Wrecking Crew musicians on the back of our album.
That's cool.
Nobody had done it. The Beach Boys hadn't done it. The Byrds hadn't done it. Nobody had done it. It was actually the hush hush secret. There's a book by Kent Hartman. It's a really, really good book on the Wrecking Crew, and they discuss that in there. I eventually got invited to Nashville for the Musicians Hall of Fame, where I inducted the Wrecking Crew into the Musicians Hall of Fame. Because of that, well, I was on The Office, and I was a musician, but we had done that thing. So, yeah. Is that us or you?
Not on me. I think it's on your side.
It's probably
something on your phone, maybe.
It's safety alerts.
No worries.
It's another curfew.
I haven't gotten one yet here. Which part of LA are you in right now, Creed?
Studio City.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. Creed Bratton is exempt. Okay. So
that's perfect.
There's perks. There's perks to being me.
I love that. So I was saying, so London Fog, Live for the Day, the song blows up.
Yep.
You sign a deal. Are you guys on a label? Is there a big manager? Are you touring?
We have a manager, Jerry Cohen. We're touring all the time. We're playing with the Beach Boys. We're playing with the Doors. We're playing with Cream. We toured with Cream for like several tours down south. We played with everybody. Hendrix. We played Devonshire Downs. There was 200,000 people there. That was monumental. That was the biggest crowd I'd ever played for. 50,000 at Miami Pop Festival before that. We remember playing Mount Tamalpais in San Francisco when we first started. Everyone was on acid. I mean, everyone was acid. I saw Janis Joplin on the back of a Harley being brought up to the stage. It was insane. I didn't drop acid myself till later at the Fillmore, but that's another story you can research. That's hey, you know what? It's at the time it seemed like a professional faux pas, but actually it's turned out very well for me, I believe. Doing that.
How many years, Creed, were you in the Grassroots total for hearing all of those tours with all those unbelievable musicians?
4 years. Yeah.
Got it. That's awesome.
Then you said I did 4 albums with them.
Yep.
And now I'm releasing my ninth studio album called Slightly Altered, and that comes out on July 17th. The single Chan Chu Toad comes out on the 12th of this month.
Great.
So we're going to be sending out downloads. I'm waiting for the vinyls to come because it's such a cool record, and it's got such really interesting artwork. I don't know if I've got any artwork in here. Nope, nothing here to show you. But I could show you. Hang on a second, I will show you. Want to see it?
Yeah, please.
Yes, hang on a second, I'll show it to you. Hang on, this is good. Well worth it. This is a 57 country and western. 1957 country and western. I got from Dan Schwartz. We worked on the Bounce Back album together. I can't bring my thing around here to show you. I'm in my office now, but I just bought this Varsity from Magnatone, and they make some great amps.
Yeah.
This is a great amp. I've been playing my Strat and my 69 Bluesbird through. And
great.
It's a one. And I tell you, I'm 77 now, but when I plug into a guitar into a great sounding amp and there's that sweet spot, it's on the tone, I'm a kid again.
You sound like you're selling me an amp, man.
And now, Matthew, here it is. Without any further ado, Chan Chu.
I love it.
Slightly altered. You can see that I'm holding my eyes out in front of me. My eyes have disappeared off my body. And on the back is the famous Chan Chu toad, which is the single. Now, Chan Chu toad, as most people know, is the famous mythological three-legged toad, which brings good luck to Chinese homes. Very feng shui. You put it around your house facing the door. It brings money into your home, keeps money out. In my Chan Chu toad, she's an Oriental girlfriend. So it's kind of, because I like Orientals, so that's good. You know?
I love it, Creed.
Little Creed idiosyncrasy.
Yes, that's right. You touched on something that I was going to ask, which is that character of Creed is so specific. And I was curious, in that demo that you did, the self demo, mm-hmm. how much of that ended up being the character versus how much of it came from the writing room and from direction, or how much of it was already fully formed by the time you had already sent in that self demo that you guys prepared?
I sang a song in there. I had the character on a drug overdose pass out in the back of a Greyhound bus, end up in a dumpster in Scranton. And Ed Truck found me. This is the bit. Ed Truck finds me, brings me in, and makes me a salesman, which I'm fucking hopeless at. So they go, okay. And then all of a sudden they find that I'm psychic. This is the character. And he starts, then at that time, I added the facial tick, because Creed's got a little bit of a quiver. It's a celebrating thing, which I think is very funny.
It's hysterical.
Drove my ex-wives nuts when I would practice on them, but that's their problem. So it started out, but he didn't kill anybody. All that stuff they added later, you know. He got very dark. He was funny in mine, but he wasn't as dark as it went later. And I went with every single thing they offered, except they were leaning toward a pedophile thing once, you know.
Yeah.
No, I've got kids and stuff, you know. I'm weird enough. We don't need to go there. Right. Michael Scott was able to pull it off, you know. Says, right. I love little kids. It's harmless. It's cute when he does it. If the Creed character does it, no, it's going to color it the wrong way for sure.
I had read that in 2005, you were almost written off the show in that famous episode where Michael has to fire someone. Curious if that's true. Curious if it's not true. Yes.
Well, at the time they weren't sure. It wasn't that they were going to write me off. At the time, they were just what was I going to make it on?
Right.
That was the Rubicon, Matthew, that I had to cross at that time. That was a 6.5-page scene with Steve Carell. That took half a day. We were in there all day long shooting this thing, basically. And I was ready, but I was ready for it. I'd studied acting all my life. I'd stayed in class. I tell actors all the time, right up to I wasn't high. I wasn't ad-libbing. I was in class every week I was putting up a scene. So it wasn't like I just blah, blah, blah. No, I was working, memorizing, doing my work. It's all about the work, all about the work. It's very important to tell kids this so they don't think it's a fly-by-night thing, you know?
You feel the same way about your music?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I haven't stopped playing guitar since I was 13 years old. I started working professionally at 17 with these guys in their 20s. Yep. And played guitar all the way through college. And even when I was after the grassroots, I went around and did a solo act all through Northern California, the Central California, everywhere. I could play a job at little bars, at little restaurants, whatever. I was playing and writing songs constantly, always working at it. I was raised that way, the old-fashioned way. I'm old school, Matthew. Well, I'm old, so that's part of it.
Yeah, I always love the quote, you got to do the work. Everyone sort of looks at it and thinks it's overnight, but you got to do the work, man.
The kids now they do a couple of classes or see something on Google and they want it now. And you're right. You've got to do the work. You have to.
This is kind of a cliche question. I know before we hit record, you said, let's throw the script out the window and just fucking ad lib, which I love. And it's been a great conversation because of it. But I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, favorite office moments in front of and behind the camera for you personally, for the group as a whole?
I think Dinner Party. I wasn't in it, but I laughed. I think it was one of the funnier moments I've ever on television.
Amazing episode.
The Survivor Man episode. And actually I was in that one too. So I had the great scene with John Krasinski about the pie, need a nice cobbler, you know. And John, showing his director chops at a young age, took me aside and he said, Creed, the way we're doing this, I think it should be more like a David Mamet. I said, oh, I like that. So we actually got closer than they'd planned, and we just started going, firing at each other, throwing hardballs. And he laughed. He started laughing one time. He said, Creed, they could see the spittle. You're concentrating so hard that there's spittle coming up out of your mouth. And I said, yeah. I said, is it working? He said, it's really working. So that's a fine moment. Anytime Michael Scott or Steve Crow would walk in, like with the big fat man suit on, or prisoner Mike. Prison Mike. We all of us would bite the inside of our cheek not to laugh, because it was so great. And for me personally, Matthew, obviously the Halloween episode where I got through that. And at the time I knew we were flying. I said, this is happening. I could feel it. It was working. It was working. Yep. But I wasn't aware of it until after the thing. At the time, you're in the heat of the battle.
Right.
All you can do is let go. The lines are done. You've got to let go and look at Steve's eye and react, and just react. That's all acting is. Know the lines and react. And you can't try to be funny. You better have it down. But when it aired, I was at craft service, and John and Rain came through over there, and I had a cup of coffee, and they came over to me like this and grabbed me and said, you knocked out of the park, buddy.
It's excellent.
That was excellent. And of course, being the manager, getting to do the manager, and that was so much fun. Long overdue, that amount of stuff. And then, of course, playing my original song. A lot of people don't know I wrote the song I played in the finale, All the Faces. And I wrote that. That was the first song I wrote after I left the Grassroots. I wrote that in 1970.
Wow.
And it was way ahead of its time as far as one of my spiritual songs. And I have to say, I write a lot of plaintive lyrics, songs about expression, finding yourself, spirituality, sticking with it, positivity. I'm a real bluebird of happiness, Matthew.
You mentioned, Creed, that when you came in and you did something you never had done, you had reached out and asked if you could be a part of it, and there were young, hungry kids that wanted to be in this show. The writer's room of this show always felt so ahead of its time. The people that were in it, the ideas, the sensibility, taking of the British humor and adapting it for an American audience. But it's such an interesting time in network TV. Did you get the sense that this thing was just huge, and that the writer's room was pushing boundaries, and that you guys as an ensemble were totally pushing boundaries comedically? How did that click? When did it click? Did it ever get to everyone's head? It exploded, and it felt like, you mentioned the summer of love. I think of music and that moment in time being such an unbelievable intersection of things happening that really can't happen again.
No.
The Office feels like that as well in so many ways. Did you feel it? I guess I'm sort of forming my own question in real time. Did you feel that then with the late 60s, early 70s with music scene? And did you feel that same thing in The Office, especially as it was building? Did you make any connection between those things, and how did you keep it as a group, in both musically and The Office, even keel?
Wow, that's a no, that's a really good question. That's really good. Okay. Music. At that time, there was so much uniqueness in the music. If you heard a song on the radio, you knew who it was. That's War. That's Eric Burton. That's the Grassroots. It's the Doors. Blah, blah, blah. You knew who that was. with the way it was. Now it all sounds the same. I can parallel that to TV too. As far as the consciousness of the country was concerned at the time, we truly believed, and I certainly did, that we were on the verge of a paradigm shift in consciousness. That if every single person, this wasn't just drugs, this is prevalent among the psyche of the youth at the time, that if we could forget about the United States, Europe, China, Russia, and realize that we are human beings on a planet working together, that love will heal this thing. We really felt there was like a song that could, boom, make that shift in consciousness where we're all, and I still believe it can happen, but we've backslid a lot since the 60s. And I think when you see these riots, it's harbingers of this stuff occurring again. Now, did we know this was happening at the time? In the music aspect of, I knew this was monumental, because when cops are harassing you because of your hair, it's you know there's a reaction going on. As far as The Office is concerned, and that show being part of the zeitgeist like it is now, at the time, some of my fellow actors say, "Oh yeah, I knew, I could tell." No, I'm just there working. I didn't get out of myself and say, "Oh, it's maybe the third or fourth season. You're in New York, staying at the Biltmore, and people see you and they go, and then you start realizing, oh my God." But up until that moment, no, I didn't. And now I'm flabbergasted like everyone else. How could it be? How could that synergy occur? How could the writers and the actors and the people that shot the film make it seem like it was all just spontaneous, improv, casual? We made it look easy. But it's not. It's like a good song. It's like a good song, good writing of a song. It's got to come off effortless. You got to go, oh, it's nice. But anytime you see a little chink in it, it all falls apart. It's a house of cards. And that's why so many shows today, you start watching them, you go, no heart. I think one of the reasons that our show did better, and I don't know if it's did better or not, but I think stayed on so long, and I really feel strongly about this, is that Michael Scott's character in the beginning was more loving. He was funny and clueless and kind of nasty sometimes, but there was a little more love there. There was more heart.
For sure.
I think that there was. I hope that answers your question there.
It does. It's excellent. I know we're coming up on time here. I think you've answered almost everything I really wanted to talk about.
Good.
I think what's been exciting about The Office is watching it find a second life in sort of the streamer world of Netflix and the streaming platforms. And like you've said, it's just an incredible thing to see it live on. Do you still have super young people, teenagers, constantly berating you and wanting that character? I
hope it never stops. I know actors get upset by people coming up to them and stuff. Oh, not me. It just fills my heart with love and joy that this occurred. How lucky. Right. How lucky. And by the way, I never wake up or go anywhere in this world and realize and never forget how lucky I am to have that occur to me, because I never take it for granted either. So if they stop doing that, it means something's wrong. I'm not doing something right. So I have to, now that the legacy is put out there, I have to keep going and keep the bar high. Well, the bar high for a high jumper, but a bar low for a limbo walker. Well, whatever. If your limbo would be low, high jump would be high. You get the idea. Yeah, but keeping the bar low or high, depending on what you're doing. Yes, but I have to do that. Yeah,
I love it. That feels like the clip that we'll play as a teaser for this episode. It's
I think that's it too. Yeah, I agree. That's good. See, we have to wing it, buddy.
We winged it. I mean, like you said, you made it look effortless on the show, and you made it look effortless here today in our conversation.
Oh, thank you. Hey, guitar. What kind of guitar do you play?
So I grew up back east, Connecticut, and for New York City area, And I grew up at a time where I was obsessed with classic rock, like really obsessed. Neil Young, really, really into Neil Young, deeply. But also, I loved Cream, loved the Beach Boys, loved the Stones, loved Dylan.
Oh,
Bruce Springsteen is like my life, very much so. Even to this day, I think of any musician, and now being in the entertainment business deeply, thinking about what Bruce did and how, again, that lightning in a bottle type moment where it's right person, right time, right voice, but genuine, like actually stood behind the message of the music and the ability to craft his band with the E Street Band the way he did. I was in music before I got into film and television. I formed a band that was more, you're gonna laugh, but it's emo, so it's like Dashboard Confessional type band.
I'm out of here. Go ahead.
And so we did some touring, but it was all in like the New England area. I was in early high school, and then did a couple small little solo records as well that you can probably find places like, crazy enough, things like iTunes.
What was the name of the band?
The band was called Time Saves 9, was the name of the band.
I like it.
And then I was Matthew Helderman in the A-List band, trying to be like Bruce Springsteen in the E Street Band, clearly. But
so you had records out and stuff too?
We did, yeah. But again, it was a different time, right? I mean, it was early 2000s, so the digital sort of disintermediation of music on the internet was this thing that I grew up with. And so you could self-release a record, and we had friends that could help promote them, and MySpace and MP3.com were these new things where you could promote music. And iTunes was brand new and was really fresh of an idea, so you could reach an audience. But I was not a musician like you were a musician, my friend. I will leave it at that.
Why is it? I mentioned earlier when we heard music in the '60s and early '70s that you could hear the different bands, and now it's this cookie cutter formula, this template. Is it the business that wants it that way? Is it algorithms that make the music that way? Because they all sound the same, and it's just boring to me.
Yeah,
I mean, there are groups that come around. They go, "Oh, wow, that's fantastic." They got a voice.
So overly produced. I think Luke, my partners and I always talk about this, which is we ask at the end of each year. We have the full team together, and we'll ask hard questions that people are probably thinking about but don't want to ask in a team setting. So one of those questions is independent film and independent television, is it even cool anymore? It's definitely cool when we were growing up, but to me it felt like the 60s and the 70s movement of music was what captured the culture intensely, and then the independent film movement of the 80s and 90s was incredibly cool, but then the internet just changed everything, right? It's like you've got people making YouTube videos that get more views than some of the biggest content, music and film and television. And so to me, I think the internet just changed the way people channel how they express themselves, right? The real beauty of the 60s and 70s and even 80s and 90s, it felt like people were genuinely channeling how they were feeling and capturing the consciousness of their communities. And then the business behind it was a real brick and mortar business versus the internet, which is just such a different tool. But now you have this, the internet itself as the platform and really the driving force of how people express themselves. It's just, we lost that. We lost it during that.
When you talk with your guys and do you discuss, there's so much content out there. It's just boggling. How does a Better Call Saul, which I think, for my money, is even better than Breaking Bad. I have to say, I think it is. Killing Eve, Ozark. So unique, with their so unique voice, and you're not spending a lot of money. You don't have to spend a lot of money. It's not special effects or sci-fi stuff. Why is it so hard for them to come up with the shows like this when they put out so much fodder?
Yeah,
they just clouds everything up, and you can't see anything for all this crap out there. And then occasionally, is it lack of trying, or is it luck, or is it?
I think it's.
What do you think?
I mean, I think the shows you just identified, right? Vince Gilligan, obviously a genius showrunner, a genius creator. But going back to your point about the 60s and music, he had a voice, he had a perspective. Same thing when you think about Fleabag and Killing Eve. Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Exactly. And she's in everything.
Right. But she's got a voice and she's got a perspective. It's those weird moments in the entertainment business when lightning on the business side strikes the same spot as lightning on the creative side. And the person on the creative side just delivers. They've got a voice and they actually come through. I look at it the same way I think about the writing room and Greg and BJ and the people on The Office. Like, that doesn't happen very much.
No. And in reality, too, is all those writers went on to do great things. It wasn't a fluke. We know how good the writers were, too, you know.
Correct.
I saw a little independent commercial being shot on Ventura Boulevard the other day, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge was doing craft service. I said, you don't have to. She said, work. She no moss on this woman. My God, amazing.
She's definitely hustling, no doubt.
She's hustling like crazy. I believe that people have gone and tried to do, like people my age have went on to do country, or they tried to do something else. I can't do that. So my music still sounds kind of 60s, kind of like
that's a good thing
from the 60s, you know, because I figured, why just stick with what I'm doing, you know? There's obviously some sophisticated techniques that Dave Way, my producer, uses, you know. But still, I'm not trying to go too far away from, not trying to get make a new mousetrap here. Just stick with what works, you know.
I get it. I mean, as my dad would always say, when you grow up in the era of the world's best music, and probably always will be, certainly popular culture music, the rest of it feels like a lot of noise.
Pretty much. That's a good place to end right there. Matthew, thank you so much, buddy.
Thank you, Creed. Appreciate the time, man.
My pleasure. Good luck with your project, man.
Thanks, dude. We'll talk soon.
Bye. Keep playing.
Take care, dude. I will. Take care, Creed.
Bye.
Thank you all for listening to another episode of Greenlit, the Buffalo 8 podcast. For financing questions, feel free to contact us at Bondit Media Capital at info@bondit.us. For production, development, and distribution questions, feel free to contact us at Buffalo 8, info@buffalo8.com. We'd love to hear from you and hope you'll continue listening to the podcast episodes ahead.